Welcome to another truck hardware installation tutorial. Today we are installing our custom Gatorback Mud Flaps on a 2021 Ford Bronco with Sasquatch package and factory rock rail. The front mud flaps in this kit come in two styles, one that works with the rock rail and one that works without it. However, both of these styles of front mud flaps do not work with Broncos that have running boards or 30-inch tires. For clarification on which style of mud flap will work best for your vehicle, please visit our website. But with all that being said, these mud flaps are a great way to protect and improve the overall look of your vehicle. As well, these mud flaps are designed so that you can easily remove the rubber from the flap, letting you keep your flaps in good condition and providing more clearance when you take advantage of the Ford Bronco's off-road capabilities. Now that that's all out of the way, let's get started on the front of the vehicle. To start, we're going to assemble all of the brackets included with the kit onto your mud flap. Begin by attaching the mounting channel to the center of the mud flap. To do this, place 3 sets of 3/4-inch button head screws through the back of the flap. Then secure the mounting channel to these screws using 3 sets of nylon washers, lock washers, and hex nuts. Next, secure the mounting bracket to this assembly by placing 2 sets of cap screws and nylon washers through the back of the bracket. And then secure it in place using 2 sets of nylon washers, lock washers, and hex nuts. Finally, attach the Z bracket to the top of your mud flap by placing a button head screw and offset washer through the top hole of the flap. Then secure the Z bracket to the rear of the mud flap using a nylon washer, lock washer, and hex nut. Once fully assembled, your flap should look like this. Next, pull back the Bronco's factory liner by unscrewing and removing the 3 push pins located here. With the liner pulled back, install 3 spring nuts onto the interior holes of the fender. Next, we will install our mud flap to the vehicle by attaching the inside mounting bracket to the Bronco's crash bar mount. Please note that there are 2 crash bar configurations depending on which Ford Bronco model you own. A vehicle with an extended crash bar, and a vehicle without one. The hardware included in your kit will allow you to install into both of these models. For vehicles with an extended crash bar, place your bracket onto the 2 factory bolts located on the bottom of the crash bar mount. Then secure it in place using 2 M12 serrated flange nuts. For vehicles without the extended crash bar, simply place your bracket over top the two welded factory nuts on the bottom of the crash bar mount. Then secure it in place using two M12 bolts. With the inside of the flap secured, it's time to move on to the center of the mud flap. With the factory liner lying back in place, loosely secure the center hole of the mud flap using a long button head screw and flat washer. When securing this hardware, make sure to also place a flat washer and spacer on the rear of the flap. This will ensure proper pressure and spacing is applied onto the body of your mud flap. Next, let's install the final section of your mud flap. Secure the Z bracket at the top of the flap to the top two holes of your fender using two sets of button head screws and nylon washers. With a square or other leveling tool, make sure the mud flap is level. We also recommend you take a step back and visually gauge the mud flap to check that it is aligned correctly. Once your flap is level, secure all fasteners. Congratulations! You've just finished installing your Gatorback front mud flaps. Next, we will move on to the rear of the vehicle. To start, like with the front flap, we will attach all brackets onto the rear mud flap. Begin by attaching the mounting channel to the center of the mud flap. To do this, place 3 sets of 3/4 inch button head screws through the back of the flap. Then secure the mounting channel to these screws using 3 sets of nylon washers, lock washers, and hex nuts. Next, we will attach the mounting bracket. Before securing the bracket, first apply vinyl adhesive to the top and bottom of the bracket as shown here. With the adhesive applied, secure the bracket to the mounting channel by placing 2 sets of button head screws and nylon washers through the back of the bracket. Then secure it in place using 2 sets of nylon washers, lock washers, and hex nuts. Once fully assembled, your flap should look like this. Now, we will attach the inside of our mud flap to the vehicle. To do this, remove the push pin and factory M12 bolts holding the tow hook in place. Then position your mounting bracket between the tow hook and the frame before loosely reinstalling the tow hook to secure the flap. With the flap in position, use a square or other leveling tool to make sure that the flap is level. This is a good time to choose how you want your flap to sit against the inside of the fender. You can slide your mud flap in and out by loosening the hardware on the mounting bracket, allowing you to match your mud flap's position to the Bronco's flare profile. We suggest you use a clamp to hold the flap in this level position for the following steps. Next, we will secure the top of the flap. There are two different ways to secure the top of your mud flap depending if your vehicle has a steel or a plastic bumper. For a vehicle with a steel rear bumper, double check that your flap is level and in line with the flare. Then use a marker to mark where on the bumper the top two holes of your flap sit. Then, use a 1/4 inch bit and drill 2 holes into the bumper where you just marked. Please note that the Bronco we had in this video was on tour at the time of filming, and we were unable to drill into the bumper because of this. With those 2 holes drilled, we can secure the flap to the bumper. Position a washer nut plate into the interior of the bumper, placing the plate behind the 2 holes you just drilled. This clip, with the flap removed, shows you how you can reach inside the bumper with your washer nut. With the nut in place, secure your flap to this nut using 2 sets of sheet metal screws and flat washers. We recommend you start with the top hole. Now we will show you how to install the top of your flap to a plastic bumper. During filming, we were only able to secure Broncos with a steel bumper, so this part of the video will be shown to you using 3D rendered CAD files. For vehicles with a plastic rear bumper, double check that your flap is level and in line with the flare. Use a marker to mark where on the bumper the top 2 holes of your flap sit. Now move the flap aside and use a 5/32 inch bit to drill 2 pilot holes into the bumper. Finally, secure your flap to these holes using the 2 M6 self-tapping screws supplied with your kit. Note, in some cases, your plastic rear bumper may have OE flare extensions installed in it, like the one pictured here. If this is the case, you may be able to use the holes used to install the flare extension to secure your mud flap. Check to see if these holes work with your flap. If not, proceed to install the mud flap as shown previously. With the flap now level and loosely in place, carefully tighten all fasteners and torque the tow hook bolts to 59 foot-pounds. Congratulations, you've just finished installing your Gatorback mud flaps. If you found this video helpful, give us a like and subscribe. Check out the rest of our channel and website for additional tips, tricks, and installation guides. Thanks for choosing Truck Hardware.